Human sacrifice, owl gods, red robes. Bohemian Grove is the most exclusive club in the world. Invite-only membership is limited to world leaders, A-list celebrities, and prominent businessmen. Every year, these members have a 2-week retreat on a 2,700-acre restricted campground in Northern California. Powerful men such as Theodore Roosevelt, George Bush, Richard Nixon, and Henry Kissinger have attended this annual retreat. Why is it restricted? What do these powerful men discuss? And what rituals do these men perform? Is there something more to this tradition normal people like you and me don't know? Let's dive into the Cauldron and let's get into it. My name is Kayla and welcome to Cauldron Convos, baby. New set, who's this? Biceps, who's she? Before I get any further, I wanted to quickly ask you guys to please consider subscribing to Cauldron Convos because we post every single week, trying to entertain you guys, trying to talk about the spine-chilling conspiracy paranormal podcast that you want to hear every single freaking week. So please hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys every single week, babies. We love you. We love that you're here. The first thing I wanted to talk about is how did this club even form? How did this club come to be where people like Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon decide to be in this club? How do I form a club like this? How do I get members like these prominent leaders to join? Well, this club, the Bohemian Club, was founded by a group that included journalists who wrote for the San Francisco Examiner. They use the term Bohemian to reference the cultured, intellectual urban Bohemian, as opposed to the poor Bohemians. The Bohemian Club was formed in 1872, but it wasn't until 6 years later that they started these camp retreats, the first one in 1878. Now, during this retreat, less than 100 club members gathered in the Redwoods in Marin County near Taylorville, California, which is present-day Samuel P. Taylor State Park, for an evening send-off party in a founding member's honor. Now, after that first year in 1878, they tried making this an annual tradition. They camped in various locations until 1899. Then, they finally purchased land, and over the next decade, members of the club, because they're rich, prominent leaders and businessmen, started buying out the land surrounding the location, which is now 2,700 acres spanning through Northern California. This club was originally found on things such as Greek theater, nature, art, and eventually turned into something a little bit different. And since then, the club has grown in membership to over 2,500 members. Now, members include politicians, musicians, business leaders, former U.S. presidents, and more. Notable members over the years have included Walter Cronkite, Ambrose Bierce, Bret Hart, Mark Twain, and Jack London. Just a few of the very prominent, politically active members that Bohemian Grove holds every year on their annual retreat. Now, you might be thinking, a club with this many prominent members must have some rules, some guidelines. They can't just be going buck wild out there in the middle of Northern California. Now, members may invite guests to the Grove, and I will die hoping that someone will invite me, even though I'm a woman and I can't go. We'll talk about that later. But guests may be invited to the Grove for either the Spring Jinx in June or the main July encampment, which is kind of what they're notorious for, which is what I want to be invited to, even though I know I can't yet. But Bohemian Club members can schedule private day use events at the Grove anytime it's not being used for club-wide purposes. And they're allowed at these times to bring spouses, family, and friends, although female and minor guests must be off the property by 9 or 10 p.m.
Whoa.
Now that's weird. I get it. If you're in Vegas, fine. No women allowed. If you're in, I don't know, what other places are notorious for being like studs going out?
Atlantic City.
Yeah, like if you're going out on like Nashville, if you're on a bachelor's trip, fine. Don't bring your wife. But a campground in Northern California, who? Farmland, who? UFOs gonna trap your butthole? They want people to probe their butts in the middle of Northern California without their wives watching. That's why the 9 or 10 curfew exists. Sorry to tell you, Walter Jr. Huff. I don't know.
Krankheit.
I feel like that's someone's name that attends Bohemian Grove. Walter Junior Huff.
Charles Bumble.
The fourth.
Charles Bumbleworth.
Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, service staff does include female workers whose presence at the Grove is limited to daylight hours and central areas close to the main gate. So there are literal zones where they cannot go past. The club motto of Bohemian Grove is "Weaving spiders not come here." I love how they have to say it in that phrase, which implies that outside conversations are strictly restricted from talk at the campground.
I think specifically it means work conversations, and it's actually a quote from Shakespeare from Midsummer's Night Dream.
Yes. Okay, research. According to a journalist who broke into the club in 1989, which we will talk about in a little bit, the rule is widely ignored.
Yeah, I feel like if you just get some of the most powerful CEOs, they're just going to start, trading insider information.
Their natural. Okay, think about these personalities. I don't want to, what's the word? I don't want to generalize and stereotype.
But they're sociopaths.
I won't say that, but like a lot of these CEOs, yeah, I feel like they've gotten to where they are because they probably want to focus on things like this. It's hard for them not to focus on things like this.
Yeah.
It's ironic that they have this slogan because so many historically significant deals have been made, including the Manhattan Project planning meeting that took place there in September 1942, which subsequently led to the atomic bomb.
Yikes. Oh, and they're claiming they're just a boys club and they're developing weapons?
Okay, tax evasion. Now let's get into what this club actually consists of. Bohemian Grove has over 100 sleeping quarters, or camps, scattered throughout the Grove, and each of these camps has a captain that's supposedly responsible for the upkeep of the camp. Now, do I think George Bush is upkeeping his camp? No, I don't. But he's supposed to, so get on that.
Do they live there?
No.
Captains don't live there?
Oh, maybe the captain. Maybe some of them do. They claim that everything in this club, once you're in it, nothing's equal outside of the club, obviously.
But everything in it is equal?
Exactly.
Get out. Nothing's equal anywhere.
Okay, yes, there's 100 sleeping quarters.
Some of them have to be better.
You don't think they're going to rank them? You don't think they're going to put George Bush with the bottom man at JP Morgan? In addition to sleeping quarters, the camp has stages for entertainment such as Grove Stage, an amphitheater with a capacity of 2,000, a campfire circle, a clubhouse which was the site of the Manhattan Project planning meeting held in 1942, and other entertainment spaces. There's also a lake which is the site of Lakeside Talks, and on this lake is an owl about 30 feet high. You might say there's so many important conversations, so many important people. Why don't people break in? Well, the Grove is pretty secure. They employ ex-military as their security guards. They have thermal night vision cameras, motion detectors, and more. And while they have their annual summer retreat, security is amped up even more than this. They have the local sheriff's office, California Highway Patrol, and if warranted by the guest list, the United States Secret Service actually comes to help secure the areas and roads surrounding Bohemian Grove.
That's pretty spooky. I mean, I feel like they wouldn't be just hanging out if they have all that security.
I know, right? True. Like, would they conduct satanic rituals if the Secret Service was there? Maybe, if the Secret Service was in on it.
No, the Secret Service is guarding it. They can do whatever they want.
True, but like, don't they think the Secret Service might pop in and be like, hey, what's up? Came for like the kebabs.
Well, Hillary Clinton's not going to live forever without human sacrifice, so.
True, we got to get that baby breath.
Baby blood.
In conclusion, it's very hard to get in this club, physically and literally. It's nearly impossible to become a member with only 2,500 members. I mean, if you think about it, 8 billion people in the world, 2,500 members. I can't even do the math, but I think it's 0.000 something 3%. Or 0.00003%. I can't do the
Probably
numbers.
even less than that.
Even less than that. But who has broken into the Grove? I mean, just because it's tight doesn't mean no one has. So actually, about 4 people have been notable for breaking into the club.
And this is where we actually gather and the majority of our knowledge on what goes on because it's so secretive. And something so fascinating is that people that have been in the club, very few and far between have spun around and turned on the club and spoken about their past experience, which is quite frightening.
In the summer of 1980, Rick Cloher gained entrance to the Grove with the help of an employee and posed as a worker during 2 weekends of the annual encampment. And his efforts, the first magazine reporting from inside the Grove, were published in the August 1981 issue of Mother Jones. Now, you can actually Google that and find the actual issue and everything that he said in it. Now, I took a few quotes. I read it all, but I took a few quotes from it just that I thought were interesting. He went there for a total of 4 days by getting help from an insider who, according to Clohers, whose identity might surprise some. So it was kind of like, I don't know. It sounded like he was maybe well known, if it might surprise some, unless he just said that for like journalism purposes.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to sell the story.
Another interesting thing that he noted in this article was that he tried getting in a few ways, tried sneaking into the club a few ways, one being the employment method. He quoted, "Most staffers are hired only off the rolls of the San Francisco Restaurant Workers Union. They will specifically pick people from the union to ensure that these people are actually restaurant workers and not undercover journalists." He also said, "A talk on the Soviet threat to the Middle East by nuclear bomb developer Edward Teller and a closing talk by William Buckley, during which he endorsed Ronald Reagan for president." So these are just a few of the talks that were going down during this encampment. These are topics that not everyday people like you and me might know about. These are kind of exclusive, private topics that aren't known to the public yet. And they're talking about them here at Bohemian Grove. Is that concerning?
Yeah, I mean, it's where they developed the Manhattan Project for the most part.
True. So, I mean, I guess there's a reason why I'm not there.
I think that
sad girl vibes.
I think there's a lot of
Getting
necessary
jealous.
evils when it comes to being a world superpower, but I think there are a little bit more nefarious things behind Bohemian Grove.
True. Around the same time, ABC Evening News actually covered a little special on Bohemian Grove, but they didn't end up going inside, so was it really special? I did note that in that ABC Evening News special, an employee named Walter noted, "Each year, many of them seem to have a stunt or come up with a stunt. Last year, 1980, a popular button was Free the Fortune 500. So that's what I took from that. Like, they had a button saying Free the Fortune 500. Like, they were the Fortune 500. They were, like, freeing themselves with this camp.
Oh, like a t-shirt button.
Yeah, I think.
I feel like people don't wear buttons anymore.
Yeah, this was the 80s.
I thought it was like a that was easy button.
Buttons.
I thought it was like that was easy button. That was
like a
button.
Free the Fortune 500. Ooh, I don't think they had Staples button then. I think that was like a 2000s thing.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I guess I was.
No, it was like a freaking printed like big button. Like Ronald Reagan was like.
I thought they just
he
walked
wasn't,
by
but-
like a table and hit a button that said
No,
"Free the Fortune
They were all
500."
like, "Oh." But in the summer of 1989, Spy magazine writer Philip Weiss spent 7 days in the camp posing as a guest. Isn't that crazy?
How can you just pose like that? I guess.
He didn't stay in the bunks. Like, he was, like, in the woods, I think, sleeping.
And then he would just go out.
Yep,
and
he'd be
pretend.
like, hey. And he had he had good stories. But which led to his November 1989 article, Inside the Bohemian Grove. He was eventually discovered and arrested for trespassing.
Honestly, confidence is key. They probably caught him sleeping because I'll tell you a little story. Like in junior high school, I used to just walk into the teacher's lounge because they had vending machines, and all the vending machines were like way less expensive than the student ones.
You told me about this.
So you just walk in like you know what you're doing,
like you're
go
a teacher,
to the vending machine,
like you're teaching English,
and you get your soda and you walk out.
That sounds like the perfect thing, and I think that's what he did, because in the article, he did write about how he got into Bohemian Grove. For me, the trick was getting in. A guest card was out of the question. Club bylaws have stated that a member sponsor's application shall be in writing and shall contain full information for the guidance of the board in determining the merits and qualifications of the proposed guest. So ultimately, this means that the guest cannot be just anyone. For some sad reason, a Bohemian Grove member were to invite me, they would research me and see my YouTube videos of me taping gummy worms on their face, and they would strictly decline that. In addition to that, his attempts to get a job as a waiter or a valet in one of the camps apparently failed. So he continues to talk about how the highly secured Grove is really not that highly secured, and he was able to get in. For this, I kind of believe it, because it is 2,700 acres, so no matter how many ex-military personnel there were. Also, it was 1989, so, I mean, was the tech super high? I don't think so. Maybe now is a different story. But back then, I don't think it was that hard for him to get in. So do you believe him? Do you think that he was able to just get in by, like, physically just running through?
I think in the 80s, it was definitely a different game.
Now it's like...
Impossible. Good luck. Yeah, no.
Good luck.
I think I could...
cameras on every tree.
I would consider myself pretty charismatic. If I could get in there, bet I could talk my way in.
Oh, I would fold real quick. I would bluff. I would fold.
I would talk
People
my
call
way
me
in.
Bluff.
The 2-week encampment begins with the cremation of care.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah, it's like the grand poopah. It's like everyone.
It's the welcoming night.
It's the opening ceremony.
Welcome. Opening ceremony. That's what
the
it's called.
opening ceremony. And they basically gather in front of a large owl totem and light it on fire.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and this is usually where people like Alex Jones claim that they begin to sacrifice children.
Yeah.
And consume their blood to stay young.
Philip Weiss did say, a column of hooded figures carrying torches emerged solemnly from the woods 100 yards away, bearing a corpse down to the water. Another unwritten rule is that everyone drinks, and that everyone drinks all the time. This rule is strictly adhered to. So if you're a member of AA, is it AA or AAA? No, AAA is the tire company.
It's not a tire company. It's like a car service. Like your car's broken down.
If you are a member of AA or AAA, then you cannot be here because no cars allowed, and also you be drunk as heck.
Conspiracy theorists such as Alex Jones and Kathy O'Brien claim that they sacrifice an effigy of a child to the biblical child-eating pagan god named Moloch and take part in homosexual orgies, human sacrifices, and sex trafficking. Okay. And that's why no women were allowed.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, that's a little bit out there.
Yeah.
And I think Alex Jones is a little bit kooky.
The cremation of care is intended to put the busy men of the club at ease and banish the stress of the outside world. I know it's so hard for them to get in their Rolls Royce and drive around Beverly Hills, but it arouses critics of the encampment because they interpret it to mean that the Bohemians literally don't care about the outside world. That's how they take it. So cremation of care, they fear, means the death of caring. Demonstrations outside the Grove a few years back often centered around the resurrection of care. So there are a bunch of protesters that actually surround Bohemian Grove that protest these people congregating and having all this wealth and holding all this power. They don't think that it's right. Philip Weiss goes further into it and says, they wore bright red, blue, and orange hooded robes, might have been designed for the Ku Klux Klan by Marameko. When they reached the water, they extinguished their torches. So imagine this kind of band of people wearing robes. I don't care what freaking color robes they're wearing. I don't care if they're polka dot, because I have one. But I don't care what they're doing. If they're coming in robes, coming in hot with a torch around a lake and a big owl statue and a sacrificial human thing in their arms, I'm freaking out.
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. I'm like, actually, I'll probably be like, ooh.
This doesn't sound like a social club. This just sounds so weird.
This doesn't sound like somewhere where Ronald Reagan gonna be like cracking a few beers, like, brr. No, this sounds weird.
This sounds satanic. This gives validity to a lot of crazy stuff.
It literally does. A priest or two appeared at the base of the main owl shrine, a 40-foot tall, moss-covered statue of stone and seal at the south end of the lake, and sang songs about care. They told of how a man's heart is divided between reality and fantasy, how it is necessary to escape to another world of fellowship among men.
I think we need to be abundantly clear. This is not like a Catholic priest.
This sounds like a gay porno about to happen. He even says it himself. Vaguely homosexual undertones suffuse this spectacle, as they do much of ritualized life in the Grove. The main priest wore a pink and green satin costume. Okay, don't hate on the pink and green satin. That doesn't mean he's gay. He might just be a fashion aficionado. What's the word?
Aficionado.
Thank you.
I love a good kimono.
Hamadryad appeared before Redwood in a gold-spangled bodysuit dripping with rhinestones. They spoke of fairy unguents that would free men to pursue warm fellowship, and I was reminded of something Herman Wouk wrote about the Grove. Men can decently love each other. They always have. But women never quite understand.
The next article that we're going to be speaking about is from Alex Jones, who you might be familiar with because he was recently in the news for claiming that the Sandy Hook massacre did not take place. And he was sued and found liable for damages against the families. What he has to say here is quite compelling, though, and I think that a lot of conspiracy theorists are out there, and I would completely discredit what he has to say based on what he said about Sandy Hook. True. If it wasn't for him claiming that the Jeffrey Epstein Island existed well before it was known.
On July 15th, 2000, Alex Jones and his cameraman, Mike Hansen, entered Bohemian Grove and shot footage of the cremation of care ceremony that we talked about earlier. Now, Jones claimed it was a ritual sacrifice. He goes a little bit far in his claims against Bohemian Grove, as you might imagine, considering his other claims in life.
Yeah, he claims that they completely planned the Manhattan Project there. He also claims that in Bohemian Grove, they discussed the explosive demolition of the World Trade Center.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, post or pre?
Pre.
Oh, no, they did not.
With Brian Romanoff, believes that it's the secret commission to running the world. That's a quote. He claims that the global economy is controlled by the members of the Bohemian Grove Club.
Probably.
It probably is by the Bohemian Club.
Do you think they like purposely do things in the market to like make money for themselves? That's so greedy.
Yeah, and he claims that politicians are forced to join so that they can be controlled by unnamed puppeteers.
In his documentary, Alex Jones records the cremation of care ceremony, and he noted a carriage with men in black and brown cloaks, robes, in front and back bearing a bound body.
It's freaking scary. If you have YouTube in front of you,
you can literally find it. It's hard to find, and there are comments in the video saying, why is this Alex Jones documentary so hard to find? It's not by Alex Jones, because he's banned on all social media platforms as of 2018, and he said, the owl is in his leafy temple. Let all within the grove be reverent before him. Lift up your heads, O ye trees, and be lifted up, ye everlasting spires. For behold, here is Bohemia's shrine, and holy are the pillars of this house. Weave spiders... come not here. That was stupid.
That's what Alex Jones said?
Yeah.
You already said it like this.
No. Sorry. He did not say that. He was filming this. I am reading what they... Sorry.
They sacrifice humans there. The frogs are gay.
During the ceremony, they said, but memories bring back the well-loved names of gallant friends who knew and loved this grove. Dear born companions of long ago, let them join us in this ritual, and not a place be empty in our midst. All of his battles to hold in this gray autumn of the world, or in the springtime of your heart. Attend our tale, gather ye forest folk, and cast your spell over these mortals. Do you hear what they say? He's saying, memories bring back the well-loved names of gallant friends who knew and loved this grove, aka dead members of this society. During the ceremony that they have, they're calling these dead members to their ceremony. And they say, attend our tale, gather ye forest folk, and cast your spell over these mortals. They literally use the word mortal. If you're using the word mortal or immortal, you clearly believe in paranormal. If you're talking about mortals or immortals and calling upon past members that are deceased, your club believes in the paranormal activity.
Sounds like a Satanist type of thing. It sounds like a seance. Like
we're calling all the people, come forth hither with the mortal immortal. That's what it
sounds like. They're about to kill a kid.
And that's what they did later on, Alex Jones claimed. No, just kidding. But I think that's what struck me the most, because okay, fine, a ceremony, a ritual, a burning owl, fine, whatever. You're in cloaks, you're weird, okay, fine. But calling upon immortals, that's something I would do.
Would you though?
Alex Jones essentially believes that these people are Satanists,
baby murderers.
They are baby murderers. Oh yeah, I have screenshots I'll put in the video that they believe that the actual corpse that was burning was of a baby, and apparently he had a doctor validate this by the size of the bones and the this and the that. Bones from a photo from a video camera in 2000 that was taken hundreds of feet away from the actual burning. Then there was a photographer, Jack Latham, who has spent the past 2 years investigating Bohemian Grove's mysterious allure. He said, people away from Monte Rio think that Bohemian Grove is the manifestation of the Illuminati. People that live there say, no, it's just fat white men who go and camp for 2 weeks. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now, photographer Latham actually met Mary Moore, who's pretty significant in the Bohemian Grove story. She's very anti-Bohemian Grove. Her cabin in the woods is filled with ephemera documenting her years of protest against the warmongers and arch-capitalists of the Grove. If Alex Jones is a representative of the alt-right, she's a representative of the far left, says Latham. What's interesting is that Bohemian Grove unites both sides against a common evil. They just have different takes on what happens inside. In conclusion, I wanted to pose some questions, right? Do you think this is a cult? Okay, maybe if 2,500 people were around me in this summer, we're in the camp, we're in the middle of nowhere, I feel like I would get some kind of like, my brain would change a little bit. Like, I would do things that I wouldn't do if I was just alone.
Like, if everyone was like, let's go kill that guy.
Yeah, I'd probably be like, woo! No, okay, I'm not admitting that.
You would jump off the cliff. Like,
yes, I would jump off the cliff.
I would not jump off the cliff.
You wouldn't, because you're not succumb to peer pressure. I am. There's different types of personalities.
So if everyone's like, okay, we're going to sacrifice this baby, you're just game?
Oh, maybe. Okay. Babies, pushing it. Dogs, game over. I'm punching you.
So you're saying you'd rather sacrifice a baby than a dog?
I'm not saying anything. For legal reasons, this is all a joke. There's a few definitions, but here's one of them. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. A lot would claim that that's pretty strange or sinister. It's funny because people with more money or higher financial status will join cults, which people might be like, oh no, I thought that poor people would join cults more. People that are impoverished might be more willing to join cults. No, it's literally the opposite.
Interesting.
Do we think these people are Satanists that gain their power from rituals such as sacrificing babies? I wrote that as a question in my notes.
I don't think they sacrifice babies. I don't want to think that they sacrifice babies. But if anybody in the world is going to sacrifice babies, it's these people.
Oh, but what if there's a secret society? What if there's like an underground secret society in the society?
Like a Skull and Bones in Bohemian Grove?
Yes, there's like a society in the society you have to be invited to. You have to like prove your worth.
There definitely is.
Do you think conversations happen here away from the public that affect our day-to-day lives? Or
100%,
that could affect our day-to-day
100%.
lives?
I think that it's either business dealings, behind-the-scenes things, mergers, acquisitions, potentially.
People claim that like people even choose their like VP to run for presidency here.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Or like get some
insight.
Yeah.
I think this is like, no matter where you go, it could be in the desert. It could be a Bohemian Grove. If you have this many high power people meeting, they're doing something.
There was another podcast I was listening to actually about this that was talking about this could be a conversation at a golf course. Like, just because it's happening at Bohemian Grove doesn't necessarily mean Bohemian Grove is a like Satanist.
Well, the robes and the owl and the torches.
Do you think it's wrong to form these types of clubs?
No, let people do whatever they want.
Do you think they should be free? Because I heard...
Are they making money?
I heard that they get tax-free from saying that they're not a business. They don't talk about business there, which is so fake. They do talk about business. They rich. They don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah, but then you have to tax every club.
But I think that they get to use this as a tax write-off.
Yeah, so does the Church of Scientology.
Are other societies of rich people satanic? Is Illuminati real? Is this just one example of many?
I think the Illuminati is real in some capacity. I think there are high societies for rich people to talk about rich people things.
So do you think they're all linked? Like, do you think the Bohemian Club is linked to another rich person club? But is it weird that like some rich people are in this club and some rich people are in this club? Like, or do you think it's just like a team?
Maybe it's like a country club.
Like
it's like this club versus that club.
What's his name?
Overall, I would not say it's necessarily a cult. I think it's just a creepy club. And hey, if I got invited, I'm going.
I'm going.
And I'm going to be gung-ho. If we're burning a pretend...
Baby?
No,
a baby doll?
Stop saying baby.
Doll. You said it.
If we're burning a dummy...
A dummy? Who's a dummy? Because you're in this high-class society and I'm not.
You're going to have to... If we're burning a dummy, I'm game. I'll join. I'll wear the robe. I'll come out with the torch and I'll chant. It's a good time.
I feel like you would be against it out of anyone, but fine.
No,
sure,
I would walk away when the robes come off.
But I would be into it. I'd be like, yes, this is a spiritual enlightenment.
Like the homoerotica?
No. In conclusion, I personally don't think the purpose of the club is for Satanism. I don't think that they're sacrificing people to gain power. However, I think some members are probably a little bit Satanists and
they believe in that stuff. And I
maybe
think
they're doing it in the bathrooms of some of the clubs. Who knows?
I do agree with Alex Jones in the fact that this is probably a club to kind of control the world and control geopolitical tensions and stuff, you know? And I think that getting all these powerful people together, they can have their great minds together and create great things potentially.
Of course. It's 2,500 of some of the most powerful, prominent men coming together, pretending like they're Boy Scouts for a week or two because they missed out on their childhood for some sad reason. But anyway, that is all we know about Bohemian Grove. But if any of you guys want to sneak into Bohemian Grove, I don't encourage it. But if you do, please record it and send me the footage at cauldronconvos@gmail.com. Just kidding. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel because we post videos every single week. Bye. Happy spooky season, babies.